Today, elected officials joined tribal government leaders at the state capitol to launch a new campaign with the goal of legalizing medical marijuana in Wisconsin. A Wisconsin-based national cannabis advocacy nonprofit called the Indigenous Cannabis Industry Association launched the campaign, which is called Wisconsin Wellness. The campaign will include films, statewide advertising, and educational tools to teach people about the benefits of medical cannabis.
The fact is, cannabis legalization is a uniquely popular issue. This is something that extends beyond partisan politics. It doesn't matter if you're in urban or rural areas of the state of Wisconsin. People want this done.
According to supporters, medical cannabis is effective for treating chronic pain and other conditions without the dangerous side effects of opioids, which Wisconsin health officials say killed more than 1,400 people in 2022.